What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and today we have a brand new Anthem update discussing the latest information on BioWare's new game. And this video, I think, is going to be a doozy because we are discussing a bunch of information about the loot system. And Anthem is a loot-based game, and therefore loot is going to be a super big and super important part of that game, especially in the end game. So let's start out here with kind of a correction from the last Anthem update I made. Now, that Anthem update went over a few things, but it talked about the pre-order bonuses and the different editions and all of that stuff, and one of the things you get for pre-ordering Anthem is a legendary weapon. Now, at the time, I said that legendary was somewhat akin to exotics within Destiny. That information is incorrect. Now, I thought that because the developers kind of told me that at an EA Game Changers event, but things change in development, and now we know differently. So, this starts from Mark Dura, executive producer at Anthem, tweeting out that there are 5 to 6 different rarities in Anthem. This is kind of in line with most other games. For example, in Destiny, you have the white common rarity, then you have green rarity stuff, then you have blue, purple, and gold exotic. So that's 5 rarities there. Anthem potentially has one more, a 6th rarity, which we'll talk about in just a second. But again, 5 is pretty standard. But what exactly are the rarity levels within Anthem? Well, thanks to the help of Anthem Insider digging up a bunch of Discord messages, by the way, if you guys are into Anthem, definitely follow him on Twitter, we were able to discover what these rarity levels are, at least at this point. They could change in the future, and not all of these names are final. But in Anthem, you have common, uncommon, rare, legendary. After legendary, you have epic and possibly ancient as a 6th top tier, somewhat surpassing, exotic weapons in Destiny, for example. Now, that may sound a little bit crazy. You have exotic weapons, and then you have even better exotic weapons in their own separate rarity, but that's kind of what happens when you don't have a PvP, and Anthem is confirmed to not have PvP at launch. You're not tied down by balance. You can have truly epic and awesome endgame weapons, and it looks like Anthem is doing exactly that. Kind of like pearlescent weapons from Borderlands. However, that loot rarity scale does give us, again, more insight into that pre-order bonus of a legendary weapon. It's going to be more similar to, a legendary purple weapon in Destiny rather than an exotic. So I wanted to correct myself, and that makes the pre-order bonus look actually pretty innocent in the grand scheme of things, of just giving away a purplish weapon. I would still prefer just cosmetic. Personally, I think that any sort of game-changing stuff for pre-order is just, I just don't like it. But again, it's very, very innocent, and that's actually a really good thing in this day and age, and it goes into Anthem's philosophy of actually being very fair for consumers. We already know right now that all of the DLC planned for Anthem in terms of new story content, new loot, all of that stuff is going to be completely free. BioWare is on record in saying that, and that is really boding well for this game's relationship with its upcoming community. Now, continuing on from there, let's talk about more loot information. So, how do you get loot in Anthem? Is it going to be traditional drops in the world, or are vendors going to play a huge part? Well, Mark Dura did say that it is going to be mostly drops in the world to how you acquire loot in Anthem. And that makes a lot of sense, but of course, if he had said something different, it'd be very, very telling. But another big question is, can you craft stuff? Well, yes. BioWare is going to talk more about that in the future, but there is going to be a crafting system within Anthem. But that's actually quite a big deal, because a crafting system in a loot-based game, firstly, in terms of a positive, it acts as a great buffer zone against getting screwed by RNG. if you're getting a bunch of weapons you don't want and you're dismantling them, you can be getting crafting materials to eventually craft something you do actually want. However, you can end up with a very complicated system, somewhat like Mass Effect Andromeda, where the crafting system is a kind of a detriment to the game. It isn't really a positive, and you can also have crafting systems that you rely too much upon, and they are the main gate into the endgame rather than properly getting loot from endgame activities. So it's going to be really interesting to see how BioWare incorporates a crafting system into Anthem, and I'm very looking forward to seeing more information in the future. Now, another big loot question, since we're kind of rapid-firing information off. Can you trade within Anthem? Is there going to be a trading system? Well, Mark Dara says not at launch. They want to ensure everything is balanced, and, you know, that's very different from saying no, never. Maybe a trading system can be introduced, but frankly, coming from Destiny where there's no trading system whatsoever, there is absolutely benefits and downsides to any trading system, and there is great benefits having to go out and play the game yourself and grind for the loot you want to get, rather than have, you know, potentially duping glitches like in Borderlands and then someone just spills all the endgame loot for you when you start the game. That could really ruin your experience. On the other hand, you know, it always sucks to get duplicates of loot and you wish you could give one to your friend, and because he's grinding for it, he can't get it, you know, all of that stuff. So again, there's positives and negatives to having no trading system. Now, something else interesting within Anthem is kind of the class/suit system, because in Anthem you have 4 different distinct Javelins. You have the Ranger, the Colossus, the Storm, and the Interceptor, and all of those are kind of like different classes, but you can access them at any time with your individual freelancer. Like, you are the human kind of outside of the suit, you level up your freelancer based on abilities and so on, and then you can pick what suit you want to take into battle for each mission, depending on whether you've unlocked them or not. But how will loot work in this aspect? If you're playing the Ranger Javelin, will you only get drops based on the Ranger? Well, Mark Dara did say that the drops will be biased towards what you are wearing. So if you are a Ranger, you will more likely get stuff for your Ranger. However, he did say it's also possible to get loot for the other Javelins when you're playing a certain one. I think that's the best system, like a weighted system, but still making it possible to get loot for other stuff, because, you know, the reason you may be playing the Colossus, even though you want to play the Storm, is because you don't have good enough loot for your Storm. So being able to get loot for your other Javelins while playing one is, I think, a very beneficial thing, even though sometimes it can be somewhat annoying. If you are maining the class you or the Javelin you do want to play and then you get stuff for other Javelins, you're annoyed. But again, that's where the weighting comes in. So I think that's the best overall approach. But with that, another question arises. What about level differentiation? If you are super advanced with your Ranger and then your Storm is not used at all, what kind of loot will you be getting for your Storm? Will you have to then level up your Storm just to use that loot? How is that going to work? Well, Mark Dara says that the level of gear dropped is based upon your freelancer, the human outside of the Javelin. So you can switch Javelins really easily. So that's actually really telling. You don't necessarily level up your Javelins when it comes to loot. You level up just your individual character, and then that loot can be spread apart to all the different Javelins, allowing you to switch super easily. That is so awesome, honestly. Because I'm coming from a Destiny background where there is none of this stuff. If you want to experience the 3 classes, enjoy playing the campaign 3 times, enjoy leveling up 3 individual times, only weapons can share over. So Anthem being able to, like, look, I want to use a Storm on this level, you can switch on the fly. You don't have to worry necessarily about leveling up this character and going through the campaign all over again. That's potentially very beneficial. Now, moving on from there, something else I thought was really interesting was that someone was asking about jets, if they're infinite use, but in Anthem, your jetpacks will allow you to fly all around the map, but you will have a kind of cooldown, or I should say, a heat up for those jetpacks, and if they heat up all the way and you're midair, you will plummet to the ground and you will take fall damage. The way to avoid this is to, well, to stop flying and then land on the ground, let them regenerate, and then you can start flying again, or to fly through waterfalls. If you fly through some sort of water, you will cool down your jets and you can keep flying. But Mark Dara here confirms that you can upgrade your freelancer, your pilot, to make you able to fly further. And this is confirming that you can change the mobility mechanics within Anthem based on leveling up and potentially finding loot as well. And that's actually really exciting. Potentially you can kind of spec into mobility with your character to allow your javelins to really flank around and potentially fly higher, further, all of that stuff to get around the enemy or to dart quicker to the side or whatever. That's really sweet. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Anthem content in the future, be sure to slap that subscribe button. And if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.